All ready to go? Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us on this special day to learn more about Bill 3, the Special Days Act. Before I begin, though, I do want to acknowledge that Edmonton is on Treaty 6 territory, a land that is truly important to our Indigenous people, to Métis people, and in more recent history, people of many cultures from around the world. Now, we all know how important, no matter what your culture is, special days are in our lives. They are there to remind us how far we have come. They're a chance for us to get together and celebrate and remember. And the same is true with when we mark some of the significant historical dates or cultural events that take place in our province. Alberta's government commemorates many special days, weeks, and months throughout the year. Some of these days are celebrations like currently this month, the Alberta Francophone Month. Sometimes, quite frankly, they're solemn and help us remember and reflect on tragedies in our past, like the Holocaust Memorial Day or Remembrance Day on November 11th. Many of the dates are a way to raise awareness and inspire Albertans to take action, such as Human Trafficking Awareness Day. They hold emotional significance for many Albertans, and they help everyone in our province to work together to build a better future. Currently, our government has most commonly recognized these days through proclamations that establish a date on a permanent basis or through declarations that are delimited to 1 year only, or that one day in that year. There is no overarching legislation that gives ministers clarity and the ability to officially recognize dates in perpetuity, and so these proclamations have been made as one-offs through orders in council, a bit of an ad hoc process. Bill 3, the Special Days Act, really an Order and Good Governance Act, will establish a new process for Alberta's government to designate and recognize special days. If it passes, ministers will be able to issue ministerial declarations to recognize important days, weeks, or months in perpetuity within the limits of their ministerial authority. Ministers will also be able to create minister statements if a member of the public only wants a date recognized for one particular year. Under this legislation, all ministerial declarations will be collected and tracked on a web page on alberta.ca. And this will help more Albertans learn about causes and cultures in our province. It will also reduce duplication and requests to recognize specific days. Sometimes requests come in for a specific day and one already exists and people don't even realize it. So this is an attempt as well to try and create transparency and clarity for the citizens of Alberta. So Albertans will still be able to submit requests for provincial recognition of days, weeks, or months, as they always have been. They will actually be able to either write to the relevant minister or just simply fill out a request for a declaration form on alberta.ca. Bill 3 proposes a simple solution to help Alberta's government raise awareness of important issues in our province and inspire more people to celebrate our cultural diversity. It will just create order and clarity for people. Right now, after COVID, we need to find ways to inspire hope and joy and renewal for people, and remembering our milestones, celebrating festivals, focusing our collective attention on issues that are important to Albertans will be a way to help us do that. It's an opportunity for many Albertans who I know just want to be able to sing and dance in the streets. And it's just an opportunity to gather all this together and make it clear for Albertans. So I look forward to tabling Bill 3 in the legislature later today and working to bring it to fruition. So thank you very much.
Okay, we'll now start the question and answer period. We'll start with the folks that are here with us in person. You'll have one question, one follow-up, and we'll have a few minutes for questions. So take it away, Catherine.
Okay, yeah, Catherine Gurkowski with Alberta Today. I'm wondering, for this list that will be online, will that include requests that have been rejected? Like, let's say I have a request for Catherine Gurkowski honorific month or something, and you say, no, that's not a thing. Will that be listed on the website as well?
I'm not sure we'll put rejected ones, but all of the existing ones will be. And maybe I could just add in answer to that a little bit more. There are currently some guidelines that indicate, if I can put my fingers on it, I know I want to read it to you properly. There we go. There are currently some guidelines that are listed. So currently, for declaring a special day, week, or month, it requires that it recognize event, milestone, culture group organizations that directly impact or connect with the province of Alberta. So we're keeping this limited to impact on the province. And it has been that way for quite some time. They need to be requested by organizations, not individuals. So it's a group thing. They need to be apolitical. They need to not be offensive in any way. And they need to adhere to the principles of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Alberta Human Rights Code. So those are some of the current guidelines. And with this legislation, of course, I think there'll be a lot of discussion and some review of does that need to be added to, expanded, deleted, whatever.
And on the redundancy piece, I know sometimes there's a month that gets declared and there's a day within that month that is celebrating a similar thing. Is that something that's being looked at about redundancy, or is it more about multiple organizations making requests of the same day?
Yeah, we don't want to create multiple redundancies. A very good question. I think the goal is to try and sort of coalesce things together and be able to focus well once a year on each particular issue. So trying to maybe reduce some of the redundancy would be part of the goal too. Thank you.
Hi, Minister. François Joly with Radio Canada. Would that list include international days? Like we just had Women's Rights Day yesterday, was it, I think. Would that be included on that list, or is that subject to something else because it's more of an international thing?
So there are many days around the world. You raise a really good point. And quite frankly, I think our goal here will be to stay within Alberta. So I'm not saying that they wouldn't be included. What I'm saying is that an organization within Alberta would want to request that as something that Alberta would recognize. Mm-hmm. So yes, they could be if there's a local Alberta group that would like to see that requested. But we're not going to just ad hoc include every international recognition everywhere without some local direct Alberta connection.
Mm-hmm. And is there going to be some kind of overarching review of what is included and what is not? Because you mentioned ministers could put these days forward. Is there a mechanism to ensure that it doesn't get used too much as something to reward a certain part of your electorate, or that doesn't become like an electoral tool
fair question. And yes, part of the goal of the legislation is to open some discussion and gather some input on this. And quite honestly, there will be regulatory making authority with the bill. So as it gets reviewed, as the social conversation coalesces around it, there will be some guidance directed toward it. And yeah, that's part of the intent.
Thank you. Any other questions from the floor? No? Okay, and I do believe we have one from the conference line as well.
Dylan Short, Calgary Herald.
Hello. Yeah, this sort of builds off that last question there. But who would be in charge of approving or denying a request?
So it is under the Ministry of Culture, and it will initially go through department. But the goal here, the whole point of this, is to try and create some very clear principles and guidelines that will help resolve that for everyone. And the decisions will be based on those guidelines that evolve through the regulation. Ultimately, it is under the Ministry of Culture's departmental staff who will oversee most of it.
And Dylan, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, switching gears a little bit, but since we're speaking about days, obviously last year we saw the first day of National Truth and Reconciliation Day. I apologize if I don't have the correct terminology right there. But Alberta chose to not have that day imposed across the province unilaterally. I guess, is there any discussions on what might happen for the second day, or are we sticking with what happened last year?
To my knowledge, not at the moment, but what I do need to reinforce is that if there is a group in Alberta who would see that important and would like to bring that forward, then they should make application, because that will be the proper process.
And do we have another caller on conference? I don't think so. All right, we are all set for today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, everybody, for the special day.